And the West German government today made its first official comment about 19-year-old Matthias Rust, or Roost, the West German who flew a small plane into Moscow's Red Square last week. It called his flight a foolhardy action. In Moscow, a foreign ministry spokesman said Soviet air defenses failed to stop the pilot because of, quote, human error. As NBC's Sandy Gilmore reports from Moscow now, Rust today had his first friendly visitors in prison.
West German embassy officials met for 30 minutes with Rust in Lefortovo prison. They said that he appeared to be in good shape. Soviet investigators want to know why and how a young private pilot was able to fly from Helsinki to Red Square without being stopped by Soviet air defenses. After pulling up near the Kremlin wall, Rust stepped out, chatted with onlookers, and signed autographs. Rust told bystanders, and the Soviets admit, 2 fighter planes did intercept him, but did nothing.
Did you want us to down that plane? To shut it down?
Soviet officials indicate air defense policy since the downing of Korean Airlines Flight 007 has changed. That civilian planes should be forced to land, not shot down. You did not want the plane shot down. Of course not. You just wanted it forced down.
Yes, forced down to land so that, because we didn't know what it is. It could have been a provocation. It could be a terrorist. It could be, you know, a kamikaze flight. You don't know. He didn't declare his intentions.
Soviet leader Gorbachev acted swiftly and decisively over the weekend, forcing the immediate retirement of Defense Minister Sergei Sokolov and firing the Air Defense Marshal. Under Russian law, Article 84, Matthias Rust could get 10 years imprisonment, a 1,000-ruble fine, and have his airplane confiscated. But in West Germany, he's a hero.
I think I'm very, very proud of this young man.
That's a very great thing that he did.
Well, I think he's a little hero, really, that he dared to do this.
A West German defense official said, our pilots should be taught to fly like Mr. Rust. Sandy Gilmore, NBC News, Moscow.
Lebanon's Prime Minister Rashid Karami was killed today by a bomb in an attaché case. It happened on an army helicopter. Karami was flying back to Beirut after a 10-day vacation in northern Lebanon. The briefcase was on his lap when the bomb exploded. The 65-year-old Karami served as prime minister 10 times in 32 years. 2 previously unknown groups claimed responsibility for Karami's assassination. A former top CIA agent in Central America has charged that the CIA lied to Congress about its involvement in secret efforts to aid the Contras. In closed-door testimony made public today, the CIA's former chief of operations in Costa Rica said he was acting under orders when he assisted the rebel resupply program. Last fall, the CIA told Congress it had nothing to do with that operation. Attorney General Edwin Meese today was questioned for the 2nd time in 3 months by a federal grand jury investigating his ties to the growing WedTech scandal. WedTech is a New York-based defense contractor. 4 of its top executives have pleaded guilty to federal charges, including bribery. The Attorney General has admitted intervening on WedTech's behalf in a Pentagon contract in 1982. California officials said today that a campfire that got out of control probably caused a brush fire that has damaged or destroyed more than 37 plush homes in exclusive Pebble Beach. Last night, the flames leaped from one rooftop to the next despite the efforts of firefighters and forced 200 people to flee their homes. 8 firefighters and 1 resident were injured. Some of the homes were destroyed by the fire, and they were valued at more than $750,000. By the time the fire was brought under control today, the total damage was estimated at $30 million in Pebble Beach. For the 7,000 people of Skokie, Illinois, who survived Hitler's Holocaust, today brought still a new outrage. One day after Skokie dedicated a monument to those who died in the Holocaust, that monument was vandalized. Spray-painted swastikas appeared on the monument only hours after the dedication, and police said they had no idea who had done it. The monument's designer tried to clean it, but some people said that the paint should be left as a reminder that anti-Semitism still is alive.
They cannot hurt those victims anymore, but they can hurt their memory by calling the Holocaust a lie. I feel my mother was killed for the 2nd time.
The Reverend Jerry Falwell announced today that his plea for donations to the PTL television ministry has raised enough money now to keep it going. He said that last month that PTL needed at least $7 million. Today, Falwell said donations may now total more than $10 million. And federal officials said today that the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company is the subject of a criminal investigation. Reynolds has admitted that it imported tobacco tainted with a herbicide and then exported those tainted cigarettes to Japan. A Reynolds spokesman said the cigarettes pose no health hazard, but the Japanese officials refused to let them be sold in that country. On special segment tonight, right and wrong, how traditional American values may be making a comeback in our schools. After a generation of battles between liberals and conservatives in this country over what should be taught in the classroom, educators now say that one thing that's been lost is the teaching of basic ethics and respect for democracy. As NBC's Robert Abernathy reports tonight, both the left and the right now agree that there is an urgent need to stress these values of right and wrong once again.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
White House officials do in secret what Congress forbids. Wall Street traders get rich on inside information. Marines fail to guard the U.S. Embassy in Moscow. A TV preacher admits adultery. From televised sex and violence to payoffs for college athletes, there's concern that something has gone wrong with American values and that the fault may lie in part with the schools. Politicians from the president down have seized the school values issue.
Well, I think it's high time we got back to saying there are things that are wrong. There is a right and wrong, and we expect our kids to come believe it.
Many years ago, schools openly taught values as well as skills. This 1879 McGuffey Reader includes stories titled True Manliness, The Golden Rule, and Dare to Do Right. But when the 1960s and 70s divided the country over everything from patriotism to sex, teachers discovered expressing their values could be dangerous.
When teachers felt that their jobs were being threatened, or when they were personally being threatened, I think for many of them, they just kind of backed away from it.
Ironically, one cause of the failure to teach values was a growing lobby of Christian fundamentalists who insisted that only their values should be taught. As the uproar over values grew, textbook publishers retreated from anything that might be controversial. This 1986 civics text does not mention Watergate. These history texts barely mention any religious influence on Martin Luther King.
They sanitize history. They dumb down textbooks because they're afraid of the controversy.
But as the schools turned away from values, much of a generation seemed to be growing up without them. Such symptoms as 1 million teenage pregnancies a year, an epidemic of teen crime and teen murder, raised the specter of a society unschooled in even the most basic values.
The whole issue of tolerance, the whole issue of appreciation, respect. I am amazed when I talk to young people, and they seem to have no appreciation for the value of the human life.
But educators ask whose values should be taught, and how do you teach values without violating court rulings against teaching religion? Now, from right to left, a new consensus is forming that says schools should teach the most basic personal values and the values of democracy, and that this can be done around the Constitution, not the Bible.
What is the Bill of Rights?
Already, some schools are putting new stress on teaching the values of democracy. Free speech, freedom of religion, respect for the rights of others. The American Federation of Teachers recommends a new nationwide emphasis on history and the humanities. So does the liberal lobby, People for the American Way.
We're talking about justice, we're talking about respect, we're talking about freedom. Those are core values. There is no controversy to that.
And leaders of the religious right agree.
Well, I think this is one of the most healthy things that I've seen in the public educational system in a long time.
I think this is a major turning point. I think that we've gotten to a new sophistication now that says if we don't teach our kids about democracy, they're not going to get it.
I pledge allegiance.
From patriotism to compassion, more and more national leaders and local communities are finding they can agree on the most basic values, among them the responsibility of schools openly to teach them once again.
Liberty and justice for all.
Bob Abernathy, NBC News, Washington.
Tomorrow night, a school system that is leading the way in this matter, the Baltimore City Schools.